Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar today. We're really excited today to get everybody connected. I was going to say good morning, but not necessarily morning for everybody, especially for David. So I got to be careful about that. But morning for most of us here. We'll jump in pretty quickly here. Do want to welcome everybody again. Thanks for joining us. I do want to mention to everybody, keep an eye out. We're kind of just kicking off this series of webinars for GP products, as well as we have a kind of a BC Business Central track going as well. So we're really trying to get information in front of everybody, keep everybody up to date. And so keep an eye out on your emails for future ones coming up as well. We're happy to get this kicked off here on the GP track, and welcome David and Winthrop here to be able to share the GP Power Tools with us. So to get started, we'll do some quick introductions here. I am John Kirsch, the GP Product Lead at sa.global. For some of those joining here that may not know as much about sa.global, just a brief background: we are a Microsoft partner, and that describes us about as well as I could. We do everything Microsoft and only Microsoft, so we don't have other ERP or CRM or things like that. We pretty much cover all the Microsoft products, though, from GP, BC, F&O, CE, Azure, and everything else in between. So that's a kind of a real quick summary of sa.global. Myself, I've worked with GP for 20 plus years. Not quite as long as David, but close. So I've spent a number of years as an end user, number of years as a consultant now, and I've really covered pretty much all aspects of the program for the most part. And joining me today, so we have David Musgrave. A lot of you probably know David. As you can see, some of the credentials on there probably don't need an introduction, but David's been MVP for a number of years. GPUG All-Star, worked with GP on the product, and have worked since '94, as you can see there. So somebody that knows the tables better than me, which I can't say very often. Just a wealth of knowledge here for GP and related. So really happy to have you, David. Did I miss anything more to add?
No, I live a long way away in Perth, and I will be coming to Summit. So if any of you guys are going to be in Charlotte, please make sure you come and say hi.
Yeah,
Cool.
so we thank you for joining us late, getting late in the night there for you, but thanks for kind of meeting in the middle here. As our series are typically kind of around lunchtime, Central Eastern time, but we've kind of adapted a little bit here today. So let's jump in. So we're gonna talk today about GP Power Tools. David, do you want to give a little background here?
Yeah. So the product originally started as the support debugging tool while I was an employee of Microsoft. It came about because we had a support case that had been running for 12 months without a solution. We could see something going wrong, but no one could actually replicate how it went wrong. The first version of the tool was basically a few ideas that I had and put it together. It was deployed, and within the week, we actually had the line or the actual script that was causing the problem. We looked at that script, found the problem, and had it fixed. So after 12 months of no solution, we had it fixed in a few days. So that's the start of the support debugging tool. When I left Microsoft, I was able to get the rights to it and re-released it in 2015 as GP Power Tools. It's available from GP 2010 onwards to the current versions. I don't keep all of the versions, the older ones up to date, but I've been keeping the last 7 versions and now last 5 versions on the latest code. It currently has 3 main modules, which is administrator tools, developer tools, and database tools. And then it has a series of system features that you get once one of the other tools are registered. So you want to go through these, John?
Yeah, I'll give a little quick rundown of these or groupings. As we talk through them, we're not going to spend too much time because that's what the webinar is going to mostly cover here. So, but as we talk about those 3 main modules David just mentioned, first one, administrator tools here. And I like to describe them when I'm talking to clients about these as kind of groupings so you understand what they're used for. So the name usually describes them pretty well, but these are the administrator pieces, right? So we're talking about things that the GP admin might use or put into place to be able to help make their lives easier. Color-based schemes. The second bullet point there, maybe my favorite, I might say that a couple of times, but the security piece, to understand security and the deny-based security is really helpful. Makes security so much easier. So I love that piece. And then some other admin type things there listed as well, pushing out some settings to the files, the INI and the dynamics.set file, and troubleshooting some third-party products. We'll talk about, I think, all of those. The last one as well, really key, like if we've all had a window open up on the other monitor or jump off the screen or something like that, and just remembering where you want those on the screen is really cool to be able to save time and effort and clicking and dragging. So some
Yeah,
great pieces. So that group's in the administrator side. Sorry,
yeah.
David.
I should mention on that one, the report writer. I can control the size and position of the report writer window. So if you don't like that going maximized all the time, I can fix that.
All right, yeah, great point. All right, second module, talking about developer tools, and that's really getting into developer running scripts. So the first couple of ones, some things that we typically had to do in SSMS. So maybe we don't want people going in there, want to make it just easier, not having to go in and out of GP for that. So executing, creating, publishing scripts inside of GP, as well as creating triggers. So a couple of things that just make life easier on the admin side. Building custom functions, report writer functions, SBA, some custom drillbacks as well, and a couple of other things there, requesting the parameters for users for scripts without needing that additional programming, and then also being able to cross the dictionary Dexterity, so pass through scripts with single clicks there too. So things that if you're not a developer, maybe you're not doing as much, but there are some of those things that admins have, again, done that maybe aren't comfortable going into SSMS, and some things that just make life a little bit safer and easier for everybody.
Yeah, we'll show off some things in the developer tools in a bit.
All right, and then database tools. So this one I think a lot with upgrades is where I use it the most, and it comes into play a lot there. But also some other functions. So some of the user type things on the top there. So synchronizing, repairing Dynamics GP companies and users. So certainly seen that at times with moving SQL servers too, and some things happening. So it's been nice to be able to use that. The big one on the right there, we know if we move servers, we've had to reset passwords, so a tool to be able to do that, especially with a number of users, or creating unique ones and not the same password for everybody. So being able to generate that and have those send out is really nice. And then some data checks and validity checks before running an upgrade. Has also saves time, saves failed upgrades, things like that. And to be able to export and import data from other tables, from multiple tables. So being able to kind of have another import export option for GP.
Yeah, the database validation tool was written after being in Microsoft support for 14 years and seeing all of the problems of upgrades. It's basically, it looks for and finds and fixes those problems before they happen.
All right, so those are the three main modules. And then also mentioned before, David mentioned the system functions. So this is registered with at least one of those modules too. And this one is kind of can affect everybody, if you will. We'll talk about some of these, like the main point David made earlier around capturing like troubleshooting and logging. So we'll talk about that to be able to email that off and really just give your support person the most amount of information that they can get to troubleshoot any issue. So that just makes life so much easier. Also has an emailing feature from within GP, so separate from the setup or the system emailing features that are built into GP. And then we can change that Dex INI. So some of those settings that, again, not everybody might be aware of, but some powerful settings in there to make your life easier, or, just be able to control some of the functions with that Dex INI. So those are all part of that system module. Anything to add there, David?
No, other than the font screwed up a little bit there.
Yeah, it did look a little different there all of a sudden. But okay, so a couple of quick slides here, and especially on that last point, just a little bit about security. This is, just like any other aspect of GP, there's some pieces that everybody needs access to really take advantage of it, and then other areas that we don't. We want the administrators to control what happens in here. So there is different user levels as part of the install of the program, and having that in there where we can give everybody access to like the logging pieces to be able to email off the error messages and things like that, the screen captures and things like that. But we don't give everybody the administrator role, so they're not able to change those settings and modify things that they should. So we can access or assign the appropriate access to make sure that everybody's where they need to be. There's also a need for the system password to do some of the administrative work in there as well.
Yeah, or you do have the option to use a GP Power Tools administrator password separate to the system password. So, but the idea of the having the advanced or administrative features, anything that could allow you to view or change data directly, is an administrator-only feature, and actually requires elevated permissions at the SQL level as well as within GP.
All right, thanks. And then just a note about the installation here. So again, we're talking about an add-on into GP, so that does need to get installed into all the workstations or RDS server, wherever you're using GP. So it does need to get installed everywhere. There is a silent install available that's noted there. So the functionality has to be on the workstations, but the data is stored in the SQL table. So part of the database is where all your data resides inside of GP. So there are a couple of other things which really we would help you set up if we're getting this installed and configured. We do have a shared location for like the logs that they go to. Usually we use the main GP share and set up a subfolder in there with appropriate security. Yeah, those are, there is a little bit of setup with that to get that really quick and just make sure it's secured in there. And again, I talked a little bit about the security roles with the previous slide, but there are some built-in roles there to allow the right level kind of off the bat.
Yeah, no, so this is what we call the recommended configuration, and this is how to get the best out of the product. So now we come to the fun time.
Yeah, all right. So I think we're gonna both shut our cameras off here. We're gonna allow the screen to get to full screen so everybody can see, and we're gonna jump into demoing some of the features here.
All righty.
All right, so I think we'll start off in the system module as David gets the screen set up there. And I think the first area we're going to talk about is some of that logging that we were talking about before. So talking about as if a customer maintenance, as we're getting in there, we have some issue in the customer maintenance screen and we want to capture that for troubleshooting.
Yeah, so one of the first things that you're going to get asked by your support people is provide screenshots. Tell me everything you had open. And as you can see, it's fairly easy to open up a lot of windows. So I can very easily, instead of having to bring each one to the foreground and use snipping tool and put it into a Word doc, I can just come up to the tools menu and say capture screenshots. It'll give me a list of the open windows, and then I can say, let's email those. Okay, and just waiting for the email to appear. There it is. All right, and so this email has screenshots of all of the windows, is also including the dex.ini files, both the user level and system level ini files. It's including a copy of the dynamics.set launch file, and it includes a system summary in the body of the document, but also as an attached file. So let me just open that. So I might make the font a little bigger. Just bring this up to, I don't know, bring up to 14. Okay. So this system summary, as a consultant, it tells you everything you need to know about the system. So you've got the details of the site license, you know what modules are registered, you've got details about who they're logged in as, information about their Windows environment. You've got their SQL Server version, their ODBC version, information about the databases they're currently logged into with the data size, so you can see if there's free space on your server. Then there's information about the Dexterity runtime and its settings, what customizations are installed, what add-ins are installed, what background processes are running. And then it has a list of every dictionary installed with all of the paths relevant to that dictionary and whether it's found the appropriate files. So it's looking for the custom forms and reports dictionaries plus the associated dictionary assemblies that might be there. It includes the version numbers, so you can make sure that you do have that service pack installed. And when we get right down to the end, it includes a list of the attached screenshots giving you the names of the windows, both their technical display names, and also telling you whether it's an original or alternate or modified window. So all of that was one click. So hopefully you guys would find that useful. Okay, so I'm going to close some of these down.
I'll add as you're closing that, even sometimes just, we all start to call a window something a little bit different sometimes over time, and just seeing exactly what window when there's an issue to know where we're coming back to can be just as helpful as the detailed information at times.
So the other thing that you're likely to be asked is to get some sort of log. Now, most people know about the Dex-SQL log, which you can turn on with dex.ini settings, but you then have to get that working, you have to exit GP, you have to come back to where your problem was. It probably won't happen anymore because just exiting and coming back fixed it. So that gives you one bit of information. With Power Tools, I can come in here and I say, well, I know the problem happens when I save, so I'm just going to start logging. I'm going to save, and I'm going to stop logging. So I have captured just the event that I wanted. But not only have I captured that event, I am getting the user's actions by recording a macro. I am capturing all of the scripts that were executed in the Dexterity log. I am capturing the timings of all of those scripts that were run, which is perfect for finding performance problems. It will tell you how many scripts have been, how many times that script to run and how long it took. I'm capturing the Dex-SQL log, which you know about, which is the communication between Dexterity and the SQL Server, Dexterity being the development tool that GP's written in. But then I'm also capturing a SQL trace of what happens at the SQL Server after the communication to the SQL Server. So with these 5 logs, I have actually got everything from user actions right down to data updates on the server. And that gives me everything I need to know. And that, again, emailed with a single click.
All right. That's, yeah. So whether you have internal team or even if you have that sending to our team for support, just so helpful to save time, help resolve issues quicker. And again, this is part of the system module. So this is included when you register any of the other modules. So kind of that tool that we want everybody to be able to use and access. So really helpful in troubleshooting issues. All right. So I think now we're going to move into some of those administrator tools. And so this, what we want to kind of go over here is talking about kind of the colors. So one of the important things, right, is is knowing which system we're in, whether you have multiple companies and you need to know which one you're working in, or you have your test companies that you're doing, testing in, that it's okay to do kind of whatever you want to test things out. But David's going to show us here how we can make sure we're aware we're in the right company.
Yeah, so I'm logging on again as a different user. I'm logging into the test company. You'll notice a few things that are happening here. The width of the drop-down list has been made larger by Power Tools to take up the full width of the window, which means that you can now see the full name of long company names. I also have the database prefixed at the beginning, but you can also put it at the end if you want, or not have it there at all. So this will log me in. And there's a few things that you'll see happening. Okay, so one of them is Power Tools is not letting me get control of the application until the application is fully logged in. So normally the application is still running processes in the background. So this means I can't do anything until all of the processes and login has been completed. That's an option that you can have on and off depending whether you want it or not. It's safer to have it on, but it does mean that you don't get access quite as quickly. Okay, so I'm being told that this is a test company. Now this is GP functionality to tell you that you're in a test company, but Power Tools makes it very easy to turn this on and off. You'll probably also notice the green. So this is a test company. So I have made my color scheme a very much in your face green. So you can do this for test environments or test companies on the same system to make sure that you get a visual cue straight away that you know what company you're in. So, all right. The next thing, actually, it didn't come up. Oh, well, I might be able to get it to come up a bit later, but it was also meant to come up and tell me that my password was due to expire, which again is something that Power Tools warns me about, so that you don't get your password expiring mid-session, which causes all kinds of mischief. Okay. John, did you want to talk about security here?
Yeah, definitely. I think I might have mentioned it's maybe my favorite part. So the next part, yeah, jumping into the security. So GP Power Tools to me provide some incredible windows to understand who has access to what windows and drill into that. And so what we're going to kind of look at is if a user doesn't have access to a window, we want to identify the window and how can we this help to give them access to that window that they're looking for.
So most of you have seen the message that comes up that you're not privileged to access a window. It can often be not very helpful. So, because it sometimes comes up when the issue is not the window that you're trying to open, but something else. So anyhow, I'm going to go and say I want to create a return. And you'll see that two things have happened. First of all, I have the you don't have security privileges to open the window. And normally it finishes after contact your administrator for assistance. Because Power Tools is installed, I'm actually getting more information that it's actually telling me the exact window, both its technical and display names, and which dictionary it's from. I've also got the security profiler set to open automatically just before an error occurs, so it can capture the error. The security profiler, once open, captures all the events, every window that's opened, any security event, and tells you whether you were granted access or not. So we've got this create return. So I've educated my users to export this either as a file or as an email, and then let the administrator know. So if I come back down to the bottom here, now you'll notice that at the beginning, at the top or the start of the Windows here, it actually has the user and company that I'm logged into. So when you're running multiple sessions, it makes it very easy to know which one's which. So if I open up the security profiler on my SA instance and import that exported log, so today is, where are we? I think I'm in the wrong folder. Let me just go to the right folder. There we go. That's today's log. And you'll see there, I have the exact same information that the user generated. So if I come across here, you'll see that this is telling me test company, David user. So if I click on security and say security information, I now have the ability to see exactly what's going on. So this window, and one thing, Power Tools windows, remember their size and state, and they even allow you to use a splitter. Okay, so this is telling me that he has no access to this window. Okay, so you'll see here, create return, David does not have access. So how can I give him access? Well, if I expand the system level, I could make him a power user. That's not going to happen. I could make him a super user. So now, power user in GP actually bypasses the security model. So it basically says you've got access to everything, but it's not actually looking at security anymore. The super user is a user that has access to everything using the security model, which means it can be audited. I would actually recommend that if you do have a user that you want to have access to everything, maybe your CFO, that you make them a super user, not a power user. Super user is something created by Power Tools based on an idea from Mark Bellino. So anyhow, it tells me that the task TRX FSS RTO1 has the window that I'm interested in, and I can do that either through RT Agent or RT Manager roles. So if I double click on David and I come down here, I can make him an RT Agent, save that, and come back here and, whoops, just open that again. I didn't mean to close it. Oomph. Okay, I was going to just hit the refresh button, but you'll see now that he does have access to that window, and it says he's got it via that task and that role. So now I can go back to David and say, hey, try again. So David comes back here, and he can come back in and try again, and now all open. So that's how easy it is to add or change security for a user. Now, if I ask David to change something that it wasn't on the menus, normally you'd have to say to him, exit GP and come back to make it appear on the menus. However, with Power Tools, you can actually refresh the application navigation and it will update all the navigation, and you don't have to exit GP to get things back on the menus. So cool, I'm gonna close out from David. We don't need him anymore for now. What I will do is I'm gonna change that security record back, because otherwise next time I demo it fails. All right.
All right. So that's great. In this window is the one I was kind of referencing, or what comes to mind, the security information, because it has so much power in that way. But kind of working in this area as well, kind of the reverse scenario. So if we have somebody that has one of the roles and maybe they have one window that they shouldn't have access to, or something that we want to remove, which has always been a cumbersome task, right? So we've got to do some copy and make sure they still have access to what they need and take that one away, and it could just build up over time a lot of administrative overhead to try to customize a role for one particular window. So I think you've got a better way to handle that.
Yep. So normally you end up duplicating tasks and roles, and you'll end up with all these different duplicate tasks and roles without really understanding what's different between them. So the problem is that GP with the security model it has gives you a grant layer, but it has no deny layer. So if you look at Windows or SQL Server, they have both a grant and deny layer. So if I click on David here and we go through the menus and I go to cards, sales, and I go to customer maintenance, you'll see David currently has access to customer maintenance. So I can say, well, I don't want him to have access to customer maintenance. So without changing any tasks or roles, I'm just denying David access to customer maintenance, which means anybody else that's using those tasks and roles, they will still have access. And if I, from here, go back to security information, you'll see now that it says he has access because he's got the um, card role, which is the card task, which is AR clerk and bookkeeper roles, but you'll see access has been denied by deny-based security. So if I try to open that window as David, I will not be able to get in. But that you can take that not just for Windows, I can take it to, payroll. Let's say he doesn't have access to employee at the moment. Now he'll never have access. Even if something ever in the future grants him access, he will not have access to employee maintenance. He's also really, really bad at doing returns. So I'm going to go into document access, sales, and returns, and I'm going to take access away. He can't do returns anymore. So, and that's just how easy it is. That takes effect immediately, and it's basically in the system. But you also have the ability from the deny-based security or from this enhanced security window, is there are certain windows that you can't hide from security. So one that I know people really like to get rid of is this setup checklist. You can hide everything that's on this setup checklist, but you can't hide the window itself because it's exempt from security. With Power Tools, I can actually say, well, just don't display it. So this will hide it from the menus. So I have the ability for both hidden and denied. So now if I want to get a list of what's been hidden or denied without having to go through the tree, I can do that. So now one thing is you'll notice that my other windows have gone to the background. So Power Tools gives me this raise all windows feature. So I can just bring the windows back to the foreground. Okay, so here's my denied, I can say show me for all users, all companies, all users, all companies. So this is the things that I've hidden, this is the things that I've denied. And I can get reports off this. Plus any of the reports I generate in GP, they'll actually show the fact that these have been hidden. So now, just so my next demo works, I'm going to undo that. Cool.
All right, that's awesome. I will just add in that security information window too, because I've used this so many times. Actually, just recently, we just used this with one of our clients, is just a list of, especially when you get to larger organizations or a number of people have access to a window, is who all has access to that window, and how do they get that access is easy to see, just like we navigated through those tasks and roles too. But to be able to see that list and again do the deny if we need to change that, it is just going from potentially hours of work to figure that all out and get it done to potentially seconds like we just saw there. So just incredible power in there that it really just doesn't have a view like that inside of GP.
Yeah, so whatever you selected on this side, on the left-hand side, so whatever resource I've selected, it'll show me which users have access on the right-hand side. So DynSA and SA, they're grayed out because they're power users, so they get access regardless. But it will show me which users have access. So you'll have your list of users down here. If you click on any user, it'll show you how they got access. So DynSA is because he's power user. David is because he has this role. So now something else that's really cool in here is we just go in here and choose. Okay, so I want to know more about what's in this task here. I can say show resources. So I'm just going to turn this on for everything and show the series as well. Okay, so this here is a list, and I can export this as to Excel if I wanted to. But this is a list of everything that was in that task. If I click on the role, that's a list of everything that's in all of the tasks that make up that role. If I click on the user, this is a list of everything they have access to. So if your auditors start coming to you and saying, what have they got access to? This is how you can generate a list. It will give you everything that they've got access to. If you want to, you can also turn on the show tasks and roles, which will then show you exactly which tasks and roles gave them the access. So you can have all of that information, export it out, give it to your auditor, and they can play with it to their heart's content in Excel.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. It makes life so much easier. Thanks.
Cool.
All right. Well, let's switch gears a little bit here. So we kind of covered the security piece there, but similarly, we're, as administrators, kind of covering the user license management. So, we do have kind of the simple activity tracking window to see who's logged in right now in GP. But with Power Tools, we can get a lot more information of that user activity. So let's take a peek at that.
Yeah, so I don't have a huge amount of data on here because it's just me in my test system, but I can actually tell, I can tell for all users, all companies, I can tell when each person's logged in, how many times they've logged in, the last 3 dates and times of when they logged in. Um, this is all statistical information that's been captured. Um, I also have, and you'll see it in a second, but I also have information about how many times they've been automatically logged out. But this window basically will capture statistics of every time someone logs in. If you want, you can also have the detailed records. So this is now a list of actually every single login and when they logged out. So I can see exactly how long, they were logged in here for 100 minutes. I can see exactly where they've come from and logged in. The other thing that we've got, and it's this one, I can get a graph showing me my daily maximum users. So you can see when you hit your maximum user count. And if you click on any of these days, it will show you who was logged in at that time. So, and there's a list of who was logged in at that time. So this allows you to track, and you can say how many days worth of information you want to keep, but you can track your maximum daily usage and watch how your licenses are getting used. So the issue though is you don't want to you don't want to use more licenses than you need. So we've got a way of helping you control license usage. So in administrator settings, we've got a whole license tab here. This is where the activity tracking, the user activity tracking was turned on. And this is also saying that I wanted to keep detailed records. But the bottom section is automatic logout functionality. So this will log out inactive users with many, many different options. You can set different times. You can have override levels for certain users to make it either a more aggressive or less aggressive logout. You can make the logout more aggressive when your license count gets low. So when there's less than 10% of your licenses available, the time is halved. You can select business hours and make it only log out of business hours. It has a smart save option that if a window can be saved, if all the required fields are filled in, it will save it and close it for you. It will close inquiry windows automatically. And it does have the option of removing the activity record, which would then free up the license for another user to be able to use. What that means is that if it fails to log out because of a dialog popping up, do you want to save, discard, cancel? It will allow that user to finish whatever they were doing, and then it will kick them out, and then they would have to log back in. But the license is available again for another user to use. So now it should be noted that this will only ever do a graceful logout. There is absolutely no chance of causing any issues with data loss or generating orphans with transactions half entered. So it is only ever graceful. I will point out one thing. The biggest reason I've heard from people that this functionality doesn't work is that they have their automatic logout set for maybe 180 minutes and their terminal server killing everything after 120 minutes. So you've got to make sure that Power Tools has the time to log people out before terminal server kills everything. Having terminal server kill tasks actually is data damaging and very dangerous. And I actually recommend you either turn that off or you set it a long time beyond what Power Tools does. So, and
Great.
did you want me to? I'll talk about login limits.
Yep, I was going
Well,
to ask if you wanted to mention that too yet.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about login limits. So the other thing is, particularly if you've got lots of companies, you might find you have one user or certain users who log into multiple companies, and that uses multiple licenses. So the login limits functionality does allow you to control how many sessions a particular user is allowed to have. You can set it at a system level, or we can also set it at the per user level. So if I want particular users, I can say, the system level is 2, but I can say override for SA, he's allowed 3. I also have this very cool option of being able to reserve a license. So DynSA has a license reserved, and what that means is regardless of the license count, so I've got 20 licenses, only 19 of those licenses are available for the general populace. There is one license reserved for SA, which you can, if you've got someone who always needs to get in, maybe the CFO or maybe the CEO, on the odd time he actually wants to look at figures, you can reserve a license for them, and it will take one away from your actual count, and always make sure there is a license available.
All right, maybe we shouldn't show everybody that one. No, just kidding.
You don't want to try and reserve licenses for everyone. That's not
All
going
right.
to be not the way it works.
All right. Well, great. So that's a good number of ways to help manage license, maybe reduce costs to make sure you've got the right license count and not adding when you don't need to. So there's a good summary there on the license management. We'll keep moving on. I will mention, so we've got a couple of questions in the chat. We've kind of moved off of those sections right now. We'll certainly come back and answer those questions here. So if any others come up, if I catch them right away while we're on that, we'll try to address them. Otherwise, we'll come back at the end and answer some of those or those questions that get answered. So please keep entering those as they come up. So switching gears, we're going to talk about troubleshooting a little bit. So we did mention this earlier. So like if we're troubleshooting something, one of the most common things is let's remove a certain module or remove an ISV product to help troubleshoot that. And typically that means modifying the set file, probably making a backup of it, and then modifying it, trying to get that right with the number of product counts and all those things that go with it. So David, you want to show the option here that makes life a lot easier dealing with that?
Yeah, so this is the dictionary control window, and it allows me to control how basically how a customization is implemented or not implemented. So not sure if you know, but basically the lookups, at least a lot of the lookups in the GP product are actually alternate windows from the Smart List or Explorer dictionary. And this is part of that was so that they had this zoom or search functionality, which is the same as your Smart List functionality. So I'm going to disable the triggers for Smart List and apply that. When I reopen this window, you'll see that the window is not correctly drawn. Basically, it's still got the window there, but some of the functionality is not working anymore. But this is still showing the alternate version of that window. So if I actually say, well, I want to get rid of the alternates as well, and this is not changing security, I now have the original window back. So this is the old style original lookup before it was changed. That change happened in version 6. So now one of the cool things is that most products actually do a check to see whether or not their window is in use. So if I go back and reapply this, so we're back to the standard window. If I tell SmartList not to use the standard window, the security still points to the original SmartList window, but dictionary control is changing it to go to this window. The triggers are active, so the triggers are saying, hey, which window are you running? Are you running the SmartList window? And even though the security records stay, the SmartList window is happening, dictionary control fools SmartList and says, no, we've got the original window. So I actually noticed that I had not closed the security profiler. So you'll see here that you can see that access here is saying it's giving it to the original window by dictionary control. So you can actually see when that dictionary control is taking precedence. So if I put that back to the original window, you'll see that, to the smart list alternate window, you'll now see that it's saying that it's granting access and that it's there it is, the alternate version of the window rather than the original version of the window. And if you scroll across, it says it's the alternate in smart list. So basically, this window allows you to take a product or a series of products out of the equation, to run your tests and see whether or not the issue that you're having is still occurring. You don't have to exit GP and you don't have to modify any files, and you can do whatever testing you want here. It also does have the option to disable VBA in Visual Studio. That will require you to restart, but it can take those products out of the equation as well if you want to try and confirm that it's not a VBA customization or a VS Tool add-in that's causing your problems.
All right, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, certainly much easier than exiting how many times and coming back in and and going back and forth with that. So, all right. So we're going to move on and jump into a little bit more troubleshooting. So this one's going to talk about the steps to reproduce an issue with data tables. So we kind of looked at the customer maintenance earlier with kind of logging and sending that off, but David, you can go ahead and show us here how to identify like what field is having an issue, what table it's coming from, so we can kind of take a look at troubleshooting the data and script side of things.
Yeah, so what we might do is I might pull up resource information here. Actually, we'll go, I think we'll use the Finder because the Finder is very cool. So, all right, if you open the Finder window first, it actually has better functionality than if you open it afterwards. But I'm going to go back to customer here. So, okay, I'm just going to bring the windows to the foreground. Okay, so we got the resource finder open here. So let's pull up Aaron Fitz. Okay. As I move around, you will see that it is identifying the exact field that I'm on. It's also identifying where the data is stored. So it is telling me when if I click on Ship to Warehouse, it's telling me where that code is and what tables it exists in. So this will basically allow me to find any piece of data. Okay, so I clicked on shipping method and you'll see local delivery appears in these tables. So I'm interested in hold, and you'll see it's telling me that that's in the RM customer master table. So what I can do is I can set up triggers, and this is where we're starting to get into a little bit of development, but I can set up triggers. And what I might do as well, if I go to the information window, you'll see. So this is resource information. You'll see here it also shows me the field I'm currently on, and I can say show me tables, double click on the table. This is giving me details of the table. If I want more information on the table, I can go into the table explorer, and it's giving me all of the columns in that table, both all their technical names, their physical names, which is the column name in SQL, its data type, and basically everything you need to know about a field. So, okay, so I know that the field is that field is in the customer table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard that for now. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I have created some triggers, and I'm going to turn them on now. Okay, so there's a trigger for cust hold and a trigger for on the window and one on the table. So if I open up the window, so I'm now looking to see when that field is changed. So when I change it here, that's the first event is triggered. It's been changed on the window. I'm capturing logs at this point, but when I hit save, okay, it has generated them. Waiting for the second one. Once it's done, then I'll show you both of them. Okay, so it's generated the screenshots, and that's the same as what we saw before. And you don't have to have these visible, so you could just make the send automatically. But when it's saved, it said, hey, that's changed, and it's captured all the screenshots and all the information about the system, and that can be emailed to your administrator. It also captured here that there was an update event, that it changed from a value of 0 to 1. It's captured all the logs, it's put them in the zip file, and it's emailing them to the administrator. So now all you got to do is make it look for that issue in your data, and when it happens, you'll have all of the information that led up to that all sent to you. So now, one of the things you might notice is the green lights here. Logging is running all the time at the moment. So we can be a little smarter with this. And rather than having it run all the time, we can, okay, let me just unregister these. All triggers. Okay, so that stops the logging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this window and I'm going to start manual logging, non-logging automatic start should be what I need. This will start quite a few things. Just doing it. Yeah, must be doing it. Okay. All right, I started a whole load of them, but the ones that I wanted is, I probably should decrease the number I have here. Okay, here we go. Cust hold 3 and 4. Basically, rather than having the logging running all the time, okay, watch the writes. I can have it so I know it happens in this window. So when the window opens, the log comes on, and when the window closes, the log goes off. So you can actually have it so that it only runs when it's needed, and that way you don't have the overhead of logging all the time.
All right, that's great. Okay, I actually think, David, if we can, before we kind of jump to the next module here, we've got a couple of questions relating to what we just covered. So one of them was a question on the security side of it. And the question was, when would I use the hidden window versus a denied window? So I think talking about like hiding that setup checklist.
Yeah, okay. So let me see if we can get in there. Okay, so basically, if I try to find that setup checklists window, where is it? Tools, setup. Okay, if I try to find that window in the security system, you're not going to be able to find it. Okay, let me explain a bit better. There are certain windows which have been exempted from security. There are also menu items which run a script rather than open a window. So those menu items can't be controlled by security. And there's quite a few of them. Here's another one, user and company, for example. So, so you can hide the ones that you can't deny by security. Because what happens is when you deny by security, after login, remember I said that there was background processes running after you logged in, and that's why the other window stopped you continuing. Those background processes are actually removing from the menus all the things that you don't have access to. So, but they can't remove, if you were to have no access to anything, you'd still be able to come in, you'd still be able to go to tools, setup, and setup checklists will be there. There is no way to hide that with security. So that's where the hidden comes in. So hidden is for the ones that are exempt from security for whatever reason.
Okay. All right, thanks for clearing that up. And then one other question around the licensing we'll cover right now too is, so the question is in here on reserving the licenses. In the case of 20 available, if I reserve 2, then only 18 users will be able to log in and 2 will be free always. So if you can clarify what happens with those 2 reserved ones.
Okay, so the 2 users that you've reserved, if they log in, they will use one of those 2 licenses. Okay, so you're basically you're allowed 18 other users and the 2 users you've reserved.
Okay, yeah, I think that's helpful. So basically, the other 18 don't know that there's 20 licenses. They think there's 18. The other 2 always have those 2 available just for themselves. So just another way to say it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that.
Now, if I should clarify, if one of those reserved users logs into a second company, that will use up another license. You know, that's not, it reserves 1 license for that user.
That makes sense. All right. Okay. Yeah. And thanks. Keep putting those questions in there. I think there's a couple of others we'll get back to. Does a reserve license reduce the maximum users total on the login screen is the follow-up question on that.
Okay, so if you go into the login window, actually, I think it's the next window in. So this one here, no, it will still say 20, but if you try and log in, you'll get a message saying that it's not available.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, keep putting those questions in there. If you have them, we'll fit those in through the rest of the webinar. We'll keep moving, kind of switching gears now, though. We'll move into some of the developer tools here. And so the next one we're going to talk about here is if we're in the system and having an issue, but we need to reproduce the steps, or the steps to reproduce it are unknown. We're going to look at a method here to watch when the issue occurs and to capture the logs leading up to the event.
No, we did that bit. That was the customer one that we did just earlier with the hold.
Oh, did we jump ahead?
We did that one already, sorry. We're gonna look at self-service scripts here.
Okay, all right.
You want me to explain some scenarios?
Yeah, you want to go ahead with that one?
I'll explain some scenarios. So basically, and you know, you, as a user, you might have these already. So do you have some sort of script that you might ask your partner or database administrator to run to fix some issue that you have in your system, or make some change that you want made to your system through the back end, and that you have to always ask somebody else to do it? So this is what we're coming to, a self-service script. So we can write scripts in Power Tools that can be written in any language, but this is basically a SQL script that I'm going to show you. And it is going to be used. So let me just get the SQL display selected customers. Okay, so this here is a SQL script that's just going to list customers, but maybe this will, you know, this script could be anything. It could be something to update or insert or fix some data that's wrong. The script can be quite long. It could call a stored procedure. Anything that you needed is make it do. So you'll notice here, I've used a combination of SQL columns and Dexterity names. And when I execute this, you'll see there's a couple of things. We've got a parameter list where I've defined a parameter so that the system will ask me for a user or range of users, and it's got some default values. So when I execute this, it will ask me and then put into the placeholders what I actually entered. So let me just execute the script. I get asked my range, I hit OK, and you'll see it's converted the Dexterity names to SQL names, it's inserted the parameters, and there's my results. So this, as I said, it can be anything, but the idea here is, I've got this script, I can run it, or I can ask the users to run it. But you don't want the users to be able to see this code or be able to change this code. So I can publish that script. So I've marked it as published, and the user can go into the SQL executor, pull up a published script. Now they can't see it anymore. They can't see or change the script, but they can still execute it, enter the range, and get the result set. So that still works, but they no longer have the ability to mess around with it. So the thing is then, well, maybe rather than doing that, I would like to hang it off the window. So I could create some code, and I'm just going to start my project. Open up here, and I can have it hanging off the additional menu here, and I can say execute the query. There's my dialog, and here's whatever action I want. Now, the thing is, once an action has happened, you can also define go-tos so that this result set that you've got here, you can actually make it do something. So I've got it set up that if I double click, it makes that the current customer. You can also perform an action, so you can say, oh, this is the data and I want to do this, that one, holding control down. These 3 customers, I want to go do something. So I can say, okay, go do that. And here's the customer IDs and the code can go and do whatever you ask it to do. So, but I can also read off the screen. So instead of actually saying, having the user enter stuff, I can actually pull up a customer and say, hey, I need to fix something. So I'm just going to do it for the selected one. And you'll see there, it's just read it off the screen instead. So the idea here is that you can fix things or make them fix, expose that for the users, set it all up. The users can just go and make those changes or whatever they need to do themselves. And that can be further actions based on that as well. I will pull up another project quickly, which was one of the an actual real use case for this. SOP batch maintenance. So this here is a series of scripts. So go in here. Yes, I want to start the triggers. All right. So from this window here, this allows me to, there are three different scripts here, but I'll use this one. This will allow me to pick up all quotes from, one sales batch. I don't know if there are any quotes in there, and move them to another sales batch, or even possibly if I wanted to create another sales batch, and that will just pick up all the transactions and move them across for me. The other ones in here was changing process holds or changing ship to dates or requested ship dates. So you can basically create scripts and hang them off anywhere that you want to put them and allow users to operate them with an interface. That's the whole idea of self-service scripts.
Yeah, that's really great. I've also seen I think to retotal a batch on the SOP side of it, sometimes those counts get off, and to retotal those just with a quick script there too has been a really effective one as well. So just
Yeah.
one more example.
So actually another one that I've got that I did was, and I don't know if people have seen this one, but if you insert, I think it's more than 7 times, it will actually finally tell you that you can no longer insert a line because there's not space in the line numbering. And I actually have some code that will detect that situation and offer to run a script and renumber your lines. And it renumbers the SOP lines plus all of the related data that uses those line numbers.
Very cool. All
Okay.
right. Okay. Do we want to talk about the one other piece here for using triggering here with customizations here, so that you don't need to deploy those customizations, so you can run that at any field modifier fields too?
Yeah, so I think this basically if you use Power Tools, we've shown you about running scripts, but you can also use it to write any customization. And with this, the limit is only your imagination. So if we have a look at this item maintenance window, so this is the original item maintenance window. I'm going to add a field down the bottom using modifier. So you'll notice, actually I should talk about this. When I've been opening some of the windows, security is pointing to the original window. That's this one here. That's got the asterisk on it. But I have used the dynamic product selection tool in Power Tools to actually ask me which version of the window I want. So, this is really good when I'm testing, but also sometimes if you've got two windows, and usually the way they fix this is, oh, I've got to log in as another user to get access to the original window, or I got to go in as a second user to get access to the project window. Well, now you can actually just use one user and have it ask you which window you want at the time you open the window. So I'm going to say open the modified one, and you'll see I now have this web URL link here. So that's added, but there's nothing happening. It doesn't work. So normally people would use VBA to make this work. The problem is that VBA is no longer supported. So basically Power Tools can take that role over. So if I reopen the window, and actually hold on a sec, I'm gonna ask it to start the triggers. Okay, open the window. So now I've got my triggers running, and these are handling the CRUD events, which is basically the create, read, update, and delete events. So you'll see here, it's now brought data in, and it will save that data if I make a change to it. And I've also got this button active, so if I click on the button, it'll take you to that URL. So that's how easy it is to basically make code and make windows. Any field you want to add to any window, you can do that. This one is just saving it in the duos, and that's to save it in the duos table, which is the same table that VBA would normally use, which is the SY 90,000 table. It's just using commands here built in. These are helper functions built into Power Tools to actually just save something in the duos or delete something from the duos. So it's all very, very easy to do. So what we might do is, if we show the database tool stuff now, then we can come back if, depending how we're going on time. I've got a whole load of other really cool demos of customizations. There is on the Power Tools portal, which if you get Power Tools and you hit F1, you can get to the portal or the manual. Actually, I should pop up the manual. So 713 pages of hard labor in this manual. So next time when someone says to you, is it documented? The answer is yes. But if you go to the portal, so this is the Power Tools portal, it has lots and lots of information, including frequently asked questions, but there is a whole section on samples. And this has got some really, really cool sample code, and you can just download them, import them into your system, and start using them. They can either be there as a design template for you to build other products or similar functionality, so you just see the techniques, or there is complete customizations that I'll demonstrate in a little bit.
Okay.
So
before we jump into
database
that,
tools.
we've got
Yep.
about 20 minutes. Can I insert one that you're gonna have to refresh my memory? I think it's part of the administrator, but I guess if you have all of them, then you don't have to worry which module it is. But
That's the preferred approach.
Yeah, there's been a few questions asked a little bit different way. I'll read one of, or maybe parts of two of them here, but any way to increase the font size of the text on GP menu and Windows? And then there's kind of a subset of that I'll throw in here, that somebody had mentioned that they're having an issue on terminal servers. So is there a way to do it per user? Because some users are having the issue and some users aren't.
Okay. Basically, okay, you can't increase the font size. The problem you are having is not actually a problem with the font size. It is a problem with the GP's inability to scale. So the reason that you've got some fonts really big, particularly the fonts across the top here, and I think these guys get big. At the moment, I probably can't demonstrate it with my computer in the current configuration, but one of the things that you'll notice is just after login, sort of you're logging in and then the window suddenly goes boom, and it's a lot smaller. And that's a sign that you've got the scaling problems. Now, one of the things is if you install Power Tools, if it during installation, while it has elevated permissions, if it can see that you've got the scaling issue, it will apply the registry and other fixes needed to actually make that happen, and you want so that the that issue goes away. If you've got it on a user that the fix has not yet been applied to, as long as you say Start GP as administrator and go to Other, you can come down here and turn on the bitmap scaling options here, and that will fix it on next login. So you need to make sure that the fonts themselves are the correct size, because sometimes you can have fonts that are too big. You can also make sure that the scroll bar, if you've got the scroll bar getting wide and cutting off digits, you can turn that on and set it back to the 17 it's meant to be. So basically with scroll bar, bitmap fonts, and bitmap scaling, you can fix all your display issues. So Power Tools, yeah, does it pretty well automatically now, but if you need to do it manually, you can.
Okay, awesome. And just to be clear, so that's right-clicking on the shortcut, run as administrator. We need those elevated permissions to be able to have it install those pieces if it's needed. So that's when you launch GP, and then you can come into this window and turn those
Yes.
on.
So you need to run as administrator to allow registry to be changed. So yes, but the thing is it will apply it automatically during install now while it has elevated permissions. So just installing Power Tools usually fixes it.
All right, awesome. Thanks for jumping back to that one. Okay, now we'll switch gears into the database tools. And so talking about this, when we're transferring to another SQL server, or maybe creating a test environment, a test SQL server, we want to make sure that the users in the tables are matched with their actual logins. So kind of fixing that behind the scenes, if you will. So we'll go ahead and have you kind of show us how the database tools can help us out with that move.
Okay, so I'm going to pop into database validation. It does want you to have everybody logged out, and it does want you to make sure that all of the products are loaded. So this is actually something in Power Tools, it tracks what products are loaded and what versions they are, and it will warn you if a product has got the incorrect version, so then tell you to update that. It also warns you if there is product mismatches, or products missing. So this task is one that should have all products installed, and it's telling me a particular dictionary is not installed. I'm going to ignore that because it's just a demo dictionary that I was using. Okay, so this is the database validation tool. So right now, everything's looking pretty good. So I have this SQL script that is very evil and should never be run on a live system. And if I redisplay now, you'll see I have a whole load of problems, lots of, hold on, did I run the wrong one? This is the one. And it hasn't been updated. Give me one sec. Let me just check. Okay, this is running on 22. I am going to exit this version of GP and run a different version of GP just to demonstrate this one thing. I have got lots of versions of GP installed, so we're going to run this one. John, remind me to reset that script for the other version of GP. And I probably shouldn't have run this. Here we go. So now that, yes, I'm going to need to do that. And there's going to be a Power Tools upgrade too. Oh, this shows you how easy it is to upgrade. So I just upgraded the Visual Studio Integration Toolkit. So while it's doing that, we might let the cat out of the bag about a new module that's in the Visual Studio Integration Toolkit, which allows you to create your own forms that you can, and windows that you can use. And instead of using WinForms or VBA forms, you can basically create your own windows and use modifier with them and then code them with Power Tools. So Power Tools will have the ability to create new windows now in its next release. Okay. And we're in, come on. Okay. So let's rerun that. And we should now see lots of issues. There we go. So we've got a whole load of problems now. So you'll see I've got users with problems here. I've got problems with companies. So I'm going to use database validation to fix all of these. So I'm going to run fix users. So first of all, it's telling me that DynSA is not the owner of the companies, which it should be. So I'm going to add that. It's telling me I've got a references to a company in my Dexterity or my GP tables that doesn't exist in SQL. So I'm going to clean that up. It's telling me that lesson user 2 is missing. I'm going to say keep lesson user 2, but delete these test users. We don't need them anymore. I'm going to ask it to add passwords, generate them automatically, and I want it to enforce expiration and force them to change it on next login. It's also found issues with users that don't belong to Dyn group and a whole lot of missing schema and other issues. So the options only get enabled if the problem exists. So if I run that, okay, you didn't hear it, but it just sent me an email, which I'll get shortly. It's also generated a list of passwords. Okay, so that's the password it generated, and there it is the email, the password reset email. So this gets sent to the user, and it's telling them the email, and when they log in, they'll get a new, they'll be forced to change that email. So the way that that email looks is created using HTML. So that's fixed all of those. So the other issues that you might have are problems with data in the Dynamics utility tables. So you might have references to products that don't exist or references to companies that don't exist anymore. So this basically will clean up all of those invalid references, which helps the upgrade go smooth. Okay, I can look at my account frameworks. So this has the ability to fix account frameworks. So it's actually telling me that my account framework that's recorded in the Dynamics database does not match the application or the companies. So this information here is showing me the settings and what is actually used. So I can actually see in my data the maximum number of characters that have been used in the different segments, as well as the maximum space available, what the setting is, and then what's actually been used. Fairly new in Power Tools is the ability you can actually edit the framework here, and I can actually make changes to the account framework, which you can actually use this to add new segments to your account framework and actually change your account frameworks. But I'm just going to let this fix this. So this will make the data that's in this tables in the Dynamics database match the rest of the settings. So, but I have, yeah, someone has used this. They consolidated two different systems which had different account frameworks, and they used this to fix the account frameworks in the companies coming in to match the existing companies. Okay, the final bit, if I go to fixed tables, it looks at, there's nothing in here right now. Let me run the process. So this is now looking at all of the tables in the dictionaries and checking if they exist in SQL. And if they do exist in SQL, I'm just going to do dynamics for speed. If they do exist in SQL, you can then validate, and it will actually check that the structure of the table in the dictionary matches the structure of the table in SQL. And if there's any problems, it will allow you to recreate those tables. If there is data in those tables, the data is backed up and then restored for you. If you've got the database module of Power Tools installed, if you, okay, I can get a report, but I don't actually need to look at it. This is giving you all of the problems, but I can actually just see it in here. So I go in here and you'll see I have lots of correct, but I have a few incorrect tables which have got problems. And there's also incorrect duplicates. So this is a table that has a duplicate definition, which is an old definition pointing at the physical table, but I found a correct definition. So I'm ignoring that one as incorrect duplicate. So here I can look at the table and actually see what the issues are. So Dexterity says it should be 79 characters, but SQL has 99. And some of these, there's different issues, size differences. So if I go now to files, fix files, you'll see it shows me which ones need to be fixed. It's pointed out a whole load of files from a product that's no longer installed, so I can actually clean those out if I want. But I can also just fix these paths. So if I click on those and fix that one, and say, it's also noticed that there's some tables or procedures that don't have dyn group access. So it's going to fix all of that. And then once we're done, we can basically, when we exit, we can get a report of all the things it did. So these are all the changes it made. But basically, it fixes up all of the problems that you're likely to have. And it makes life a lot easier. It means that your upgrades or even setting up demo environments or test environments is going to be a lot easier. So another bit that's in here, which I should just show, is if you want to reset passwords in bulk, I can just come in here and basically say mark all, and I can say reset the user's passwords, automatically generate, and I can then hit process or apply, and it will actually update and send emails to everybody with their new passwords. So if you need to do that, you can just on bulk update passwords and it will send an email. So that pretty well covers the big bits in the database tools. There is still lots of bits I haven't covered in the product. It takes longer than 90 minutes to cover that. So I don't know, John. John, shall we show off a couple of the must-have projects?
Yeah, I do have one more question that just popped in there. So I'll just mention though, I mean, in what 5 to 10 minutes there, you showed, running fixes in scripts that are hours or I think with that account framework, I've done that manually, which was hours, if not days of work to do that. So just incredible power in such a short amount of time. If you've ever had to go through those, like those are immense time savings there. But the question that popped in here is related to the new module here that you were talking about. So the question was, did you say that new Visual Studio, that's a new Visual Studio toolkit feature, or is it purely a new GP Power Tools feature?
It's both. So I've added the functionality to Visual Studio Integration Toolkit. It is the first paid module in Visual Studio Integration Toolkit. And it therefore can be used by Visual Studio developers if they want to be able to add windows which will work on the web client. So they can use that. Then I've added the API to allow Power Tools to use it, which will be in the next build of Power Tools, which should be ready for before Summit. So it's in both products. Well, it's basically you need Visual Studio Integration Toolkit installed and registered for that module, and then Power Tools can use it.
All right, thanks. And we did have a comment from Sean that his favorite feature is the window position memory. So I know he's big on that.
Yeah, okay, so I know I'm in a different version of GP, but so where is it? If we go into like purchase order entry, and I say, okay, you know, I want it here and I want it that big, and then I open it again and it will be there and it will be that big. So it was also shown that, no, don't do that, I don't want to go there. It was Sean who asked me to fix the report writer window going too big. So, actually, while we're here, I should show you. See, you can have your own web page hanging straight off your homepage. You can have your intranet or something in here. So this used to be the Intelligent Cloud Insights, but you can make it go to any page you want. That's a Power Tools thing. Okay, I just need to go. I was looking for sales customer because we all love customers. Okay, burning here, print customer report. Okay, and you'll see, you know, I want it here, not maximized. And so next time I print it, it'll be there. So, okay, now I was going to show you, I know we're running very short on time now, so I was going to show you the last couple of really cool must-have demos which are available for download for free. So if you've got Power Tools and Developer Tools registered, you can have this code without any other expenses. So look up searches and we'll start that one. Okay, open up customer maintenance. So if I come in here and I just type in some of what I know, you'll see here I typed in Rob and I've got Roberta, Robert Street. Ah, yeah, that's the one I want. Double click, there it is. So you can basically search anything. You can define exactly which fields it searches on and which fields get returned. And you can have SQL search lookups for vendors, customers, and items. So you don't need to actually be able to know what the customer ID is to find it, and you don't have to use the standard lookup. You can just search and it will find it in any table. So you can, you know, is it in a particular city or whatever? That's one. And the other one then, let me close you. Stop that, lot of triggers, and clear and cust. The other one is for vendors, customers, and items. We've got change tracking. So if I just start this and go in here, you'll see that I got up to additional. I can say, oh, I need to pull a customer up. So, okay, so we'll go in here and we'll add in this is a test, and we're spelling it all wrong, but that's fine. Save, pull up Aaron Fitz again, go up to change tracking, and you'll see that the last change here was the address 3 field got changed from nothing to this is a test, and this is the user ID, and it gives you the Windows user ID. And the jokes is a long story that I won't necessarily go into today, but you can track any of the changes in customers, vendors, and items, and that's a free module that you can just install. So if I take that out again and save, go back to change history, you'll see two things should show. We got that one changed back. Okay, I haven't got the hold. Maybe I should add hold into the list of fields we track. But you can see whatever, you know, you can track whatever fields you want It's just so that you give it the list. So those are two of the must-have customizations. So
All right.
John,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So thank you so much. I know you did have a slide, and everybody will get a copy of the slides. So there is a slide about the pricing here as we kind of wrap up. So we want to thank everybody for joining. Um, we could see on the slide here. So the modules are $450 each for an annual subscription. So that's an annual price, no additional upfront purchase. So and then the base pricing is that the system module for $100. So again, you can go one of those three modules, or ideally all three of those, and kind of get that whole functionality that we talked about today. With our invite and the follow-up, you'll have some of these links on as well. So you can certainly get out to the Power Tools website, have a contact information to reach out with to either of us with any questions. Anything else you want to mention on this one, David, as we wrap up?
if you like what you see and you don't have Power Tools already, just install it and activate the free 30-day trial. And yeah, this is the hold my puppy dog technique, because once you've held it, you're not going to want to give it back.
There are some awesome tools in here. So definitely reach out if you want help getting that set up. Reach out to our team, and we can certainly help you get going on that as well. Love to find the tools that just help fix issues, the right price. Certainly can't go wrong here. So again, thank you so much, David. I know we ran a couple minutes over. Thanks everybody who stuck on for the whole time. One last question. Yes, everybody will get, as a follow-up, you'll be able to rewatch this. So if you want to come back and revisit any of these pieces, this is recorded. And for those that missed it and watching it the first time, thanks for watching it later. But again, feel free to reach out. Thanks for fixing that, David. Our contact info will be on the slides as they come out, and certainly happy to connect with anybody on it. So thanks again, David, for joining us getting late in your night.
Yeah,
And
it's
thanks
time
everybody
for me
for
to go to
attending.
bed. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks all. Take care.